Thank you, everyone, for being here. So I'll just get my slides started. Okay, great. So I want to thank the Women in Energy-Based Devices Committee for this honor. I'm Dr. Lilith Garibian, Associate Professor. So what I want to do today is to share with you my journey in life and in innovation and hear your thoughts about it. I want to know what you think about this talk, if there's areas that we could collaborate. And I'm hopeful that my story will empower and inspire other women in the audience to pursue their curiosity and engage in innovation. So these are my disclosures. So I was a curious and passionate kid from the get-go. It earned me this cape and crown as the main character of the Armenian alphabet at a first grade performance. It gave me the honor of being one of 3 kids in my 3rd grade class who got to wear the red scarf around my neck as a symbol of best students during the communist era when Armenia was part of the Soviet Union. That changed when my family fled Armenia for US when I was just 12. The Soviet Union had just collapsed and Armenia had become independent. We were so happy. But war broke out with neighboring Azerbaijan, and my mother was worried enough for our future, especially my brothers, who might be drafted into war, so she agreed to leave her beloved extended family, her home, belongings, and her profession behind to immigrate to US. I remember lots of crying, especially when I had to say goodbye to my friends and relatives and give away my bike and other sentimental items. Still, I tried to focus my mind on my adventure ahead in America. My relatives told me stories about America, the land of opportunities for those who take education seriously. That sounded good to someone who loved learning as much as me. Of equal importance to my 12-year-old mind, I learned that you could wear anything you wanted in school. In Armenia, girls were not allowed to wear pants to school, and the foremost expectation of girls in my home country was finishing primary school and becoming obedient homemaker and a great mother. That was never my dream. My parents, my 2 siblings, and I started our new life in US in a 600 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment. I was enrolled in a local middle school in ESL, which is English as a second language, level 0, where some called me dumb because I did not speak English. I had clashes with students who saw me as different and picked fights. I went from being the best student in Armenia in my class to being the student who was made fun of and felt lost. So my torment was compounded by the financial and social difficulties my parents were also going through. They too were lost. So I missed my extended family in Armenia, my friends and teachers, and I wondered whether we belonged here more and more. I did not have anyone to turn to except myself. It was curiosity that kept me falling into despair by keeping my mind open to new experiences and ideas. It allowed me to keep focused on learning new things and ignore the barbs and my internal dialogue telling me I did not belong here. It taught me to minimize unhelpful criticism and compartmentalize things I had no control over. What I most remember about middle school, besides ESL, is learning how to play basketball. One of my PE teachers said I was good at it. I played more and loved it. I tried out and made a local youth girls basketball team, eventually making the high school varsity basketball team. I joined science club and made new friends. I signed up for music class offered in my middle school and learned how to play a classical guitar and loved it. Life in America started looking up. My guitar teacher in high school was also the marching band teacher, and he invited me to join. All I understood at that point were the words band and uniform. both of which sounded really exciting to me. And so I became perhaps the only person ever to play a classical guitar in a marching band. And as you could see from these photos, one of which is really me, I took both of these jobs very seriously. So looking back, I could see that being open to adventure and feeling excited about doing something new, whether that was wearing pants, playing basketball, or marching with my guitar, it helped me tap into an energy reserve I did not know I had. That fuel injection of curiosity and positive attitude towards adventure of the unknown has continued to give me the power to change my life in many amazing ways. In those days, being at home was depressing. I would fight with my siblings to turn off the TV so I could study, or hear my parents arguing about finances. Life was tough for my parents because they couldn't find the same jobs they had in Armenia. My mom would spend hours cutting coupons to make the ends meet. She wanted me to be the perfect Armenian girl who did housework and helped her look after my younger siblings. But I had a different vision of my life. I felt torn. I wanted to support my mom, but I didn't want her life. She cared so much about traditions, what my father's family thought of her, and her ability to be a good wife and a mother, that she lost touch with herself and she was unhappy. So I regularly fled to the local library, which became my refuge and opened a new world to me. Books let me escape my drab home life and learn more about other places and people. Even now, libraries are my favorite places to be, and books are my favorite things to buy. And they're my portal to learn, reflect, and understand the world. Despite the continuous challenges at home, I excelled in high school, fueled by my unquenchable curiosity, love for learning, and hunger to be part of a team. I did track and field, I ran cross country, and played on the varsity girls basketball team. I worked for a school cafeteria before school, making grilled cheese sandwiches and cinnamon rolls, and I worked during snack time and lunchtime as a cashier, all to make the money I needed to pay for the Nike basketball shoes you see me wearing in that picture. Whether it was dealing with our family's problem or fitting in as an immigrant student, not leaving my own Armenian culture and duties behind, my curiosity guided me to what I wanted, and my tenacity and willpower cultivated my commitment to getting the job done. In AP biology class in high school, I fell in love with DNA, just like I had with basketball and classical guitar. I was fascinated how 4 simple letters, A, T, C, G, give rise to every life form in our planet. When a friend told me to apply to UCLA for college, she told me to apply to UC school, so I applied to 4 of them, including UCLA, which was against my counselor's advice given my mediocre SAT scores. When I was accepted to UCLA, that same counselor told me to attend Glendale Community College instead because UCLA would be too challenging. But my curiosity and my desire to deeply learn about DNA drove me to take my chances at UCLA. And that was the best decision I ever made. I had the gut feeling that UCLA would allow me to continue my love affair with DNA, and even though I had no idea what that really entailed. So to earn money in college, I became a CSO, a community safety officer for UCPD. That's right, I was a security guard. I got to wear another uniform and carry a walkie-talkie and pepper spray. I had to work long shifts and endure 2 to 3 hours of commute to UCLA from home because I did not have the money to live on campus. And I still had doubts. My counselor's words that UCLA will be too challenging for me were in my head. I was scared about how I'm going to pay back the loans I took for college if I failed. I had nothing and no one to fall back on. This was my one chance to succeed. High stakes for a teenager. But I told myself I would not let fear stop me. I had to work hard and give it all I got. At UCLA, I did really well academically, which built my confidence and taught me I'm capable and strong, and I'm able to be just as good as anyone else. So while I liked the CSO job, I wanted to study DNA. So that desire was actually intensified after I met Dr. James Watson at UCLA, who received the Nobel Prize for discovering the structure of DNA. I didn't know where to start, but one afternoon during a CSO shift, I decided to email 20 UCLA faculty to ask them if I could join their lab to work with DNA. Only one answered, and to tell me that I had emailed the wrong Jeffrey Miller. No matter, I asked him if he had working with DNA, and he said yes, so I joined his lab. And in his lab, actually, I got to study DNA mutations in bacteria by using radioactive P32 to manually sequence DNA. Back in those days, those were the large gels we had to pour and run and sequence every single mutation and read the DNA. We didn't have the machines. So I was hooked on science. I loved it, even if that meant working with radioactivity. I joined an undergraduate research program, and from there I applied and was elected to the prestigious Howard Hughes Honors Undergraduate Research Program. This program was so advanced and challenging, it required reading primary literature from journals like Nature, Science, and Cell, and presenting those papers in a form of journal club. I remember it would take me just half an hour to even understand the title of some of these journals. How was I going to survive this program? Well, I did, thanks to my insatiable curiosity and my commitment to just stick with it. But I still really wanted a mentor. So thanks to my involvement with this undergraduate research program, during one of the college summers, the summer of 1999, I was accepted to UCSF Summer Research Training Program and spent the summer in the lab of Dr. Don Ganem studying the KSHV virus. Dr. Ganem and the research topic inspired me, and his lab was so amazing in the work that he was doing. I would start my day early in the morning, and I wouldn't get home until 1 or 2 a.m. As a physician scientist, Dr. Ganem truly cared about understanding this virus and developing new therapies to help his patients. He was a superb scientist, but also a very compassionate doctor who was not satisfied telling his patients there's no treatment for your disease. His work was a lighthouse to me. To my surprise, I had enough data by the end of the summer to have my first publication in the Journal of Virology. That was another affirmation that my success at UCLA was not a fluke. I knew after this summer that I wanted to become a physician scientist. So I came back to UCLA, I took the MCAT, and my MCAT verbal score was so low that many people told me I didn't stand a chance of getting into medical school, let alone an MD-PhD program. Dr. Ganem told me, don't shy away from applying to top MD-PhD programs such as UCSF, Harvard, or Stanford just because of one weak element in your profile. He saw my potential, and that is what great mentors do. I applied and got into Harvard MD-PhD program, which offered actually full scholarship for both degrees and a stipend they would pay for living expenses. I was one of 10 students nationally to have this honor of what I call winning the education lottery. Even so, I was canceled by many family and friends to stay at UCLA rather than lighting off on my own across the vast continent to a university culture vastly different from what I knew. No matter, I went. I was spurred by my curiosity. I knew it's not every day people like me get an opportunity to attend to Harvard. Despite some minor doubts, I felt in my gut that this was going to change my life, so I went. I stayed true to my dream and desire to discover something new to help patients. That was the reason that I pursued the long MD PhD training. But after getting my PhD in immunology from Harvard, and even after publishing landmark papers, finding the gene and the mechanism for common variable immunodeficiency, I was nowhere near developing a treatment for these patients. I really wanted to tackle an unmet need where I could actually develop a therapy and see patients benefit from it in my lifetime. That was always my North Star. So during my Harvard dermatology residency training, even though my PhD was in immunology, curiosity again led me to pivot and completely change fields from immunology to cutaneous neurobiology and devices, hoping to find a better treatment for pain and itch. How? By understanding the mechanism of a side effect of loss of sensation after cool sculpting as an opportunity to develop a novel treatment for pain and itch with cooling. I had that idea as a second-year derm resident listening to Dr. Rox Anderson give a talk about the new device from his lab. Also, I wanted to learn how to innovate, inspired by Dr. Rox Anderson, who had pioneered so many life-changing laser treatments in dermatology that were helping so many patients. So I joined his lab, even though a high-ranking member of our department told me that I was throwing away a promising future in immunodermatology. There's only one Rox Anderson, he told me, wanting to imply that this was a risky path for me. No matter, I took it. Aiming to develop a better therapy for pain and itch really required learning a new language and the process of innovation and commercialization. When I started this journey, I knew nothing about this area. I thought IP was immunoprecipitation, but it's actually intellectual property. And terms like spin-out, licensing, regulatory pathway made me feel like I was 12 years old again in a classroom full of native English speakers whom I could not for the life of me understand. But that incomprehension didn't paralyze me, it energized me. I had a lot of new things to learn. So over the past 12 years on this innovation journey, I had to keep learning. So when I had that aha moment about using cooling to target sensory nerves for treatment of pain, I had to learn and teach myself a lot about cutaneous neurobiology. When we came up with the idea of making injectable eye slurry, though it sounded simple, we conducted painstaking research to try to make ice that can be injectable, sometimes even working in a -20 freezer inside MGH. I had to assemble and work with a team of experts to show proof of concept for all the other therapeutic applications of this injectable ice. Multiple of my grants and papers were rejected, and I faced many other challenges. But I kept trying, always encouraged by my deep-rooted curiosity and reminding myself of my commitment to find a better therapy for patients. So now I'm an inventor of a platform injectable cooling technology. I have multiple pending and issued patents, and I'm also co-founder of 2 startup companies working on commercializing this invention. And my work has led to 14 new publications on this technology and the development of an actual new field of injectable cooling. But most importantly, what I'm proud of is that it has brought about the opportunity to help patients suffering with any one of these diseases. And the startup company that I co-founded that is working on this injectable ice to treat pain recently received the breakthrough device designation from FDA. Just hearing the testimonials from some of the patients who have greatly benefited from this technology, that a non-opioid and long-lasting pain therapy makes all the challenges and sacrifices really worthwhile. Most patients who were enrolled in this phase 1 study reported not having pain for weeks and being able to actually become active and be able to enjoy life without pain. And to me, this is actually priceless. And again, innovation is a team sport. And I've been so fortunate and grateful to work with a great team of researchers in Dr. Rox Anderson's lab and also in industry with Brixton Bioscience to be able to actually do all this work to bring this technology to patients. So looking back on my life, I recognize 3 pillars where I focused my attention, efforts, and energy. They built the foundation of what I continue to create in my life and what I use to fuel my innovation. Pillar number 1, learn and explore knowledge. Knowledge empowers, and it's truly the key to my success. Learning and my love for knowledge is the fuel that still drives my work every day, both as I'm treating patients and researching innovative new discoveries to meet their needs. Remember, no one starts out knowing everything. Don't discount yourself just because you don't know something. But you need to develop a mindset that when you don't know something, to just go and find and learn the new knowledge and trust that this new information will guide you to where you want to go. And don't wait for information to come to you, just go out and get it. Number 2, be a trailblazer. Don't be afraid to try something new if you feel passionate about it. Remember, my trailblazing did not stop from the day I became the first classical guitarist in the marching band. When I chose to become a physician scientist, my dream was to discover a new therapy that could change the lives of millions of patients. That was my passion and my purpose. This side effect from a fat removal technology, prolonged numbness, sparked an idea for me, the possibility of helping millions of patients. A big new trail to blaze. There was actually a part of me that was hesitant about joining Dr. Anderson's lab and venturing into a completely new area of research that I had no background in. It would have been a lot easier for me to join an immunology lab and continue building on my PhD work. But I chose not to listen to the reason why I should not take this step, and I chose to focus on the reason why I should. Again, choose to focus on the positive side and remind yourself that every problem is an opportunity. This reframe could actually change your life. So my trailblazing is actually also fueled by my passion and values, what really matters to me. The international charities and the initiatives I have created are focused on passing this knowledge I've gained and benefited from to others. For example, I was deeply affected by my own innovation experience, the idea that you could take a physician like me who knew nothing about innovation, put them in an environment where he or she is empowered with knowledge and an opportunity to learn and practice innovation, which few years later leads to discovery that is showing huge promise in changing patients' lives. With my mentor and colleague, Dr. Rox Anderson, we created the Magic One Initiative, which is an academic initiative designed by clinicians for clinicians to empower and engage them to actually creatively solve problems through innovation. And through this initiative, other physicians just like me can learn about the process and work on bringing new solutions to patients. You could read more about this from the publications. From the Magic One initiative, I actually conceived and co-founded and developed the virtual Magic One program, which has now enrolled nationally and graduated 86 scholars from 46 different institutions. And we secured funding 2 years ago to expand this program to Europe and have made this into an international program, doing the same that we do in US and Europe. And just recently, we got funding to expand this program to Asia. So we're really excited about starting the Asia Virtual Magic 1. If any of you are from Asia, please apply. In addition, I also co-founded the Face of Angel nonprofit organization to establish medical laser clinics and laser education in Armenia, with the mission of allowing patients with life-altering skin diseases such as scars or port wine stain to achieve a better chance in life. Through knowledge and education, I want to change the standard of care of Armenian patients with skin problems who never had access to laser technology. By bringing lasers to Armenia and training the Armenian physicians how to appropriately use them, we have made a significant impact on the lives of hundreds of patients who have benefited enormously from this treatment. These all started back in 2013, thanks to Rox, who actually encouraged and empowered me to do this. In 2013, we took our first trip to Armenia, ever since I had left in 1991. When we got there, we learned that in May of 2012, hundreds of balloons had actually exploded during a political rally in Armenia. The balloons were actually filled with hydrogen instead of helium because it was cheaper. An explosion occurred after a smoker lit a cigarette near the balloons. So most of the injured were young adults and children who were carrying these balloons. And these are some of the burn scars that we saw when we examined some of these young patients who were burned from this incident. You could see the grafts on the burns, which were healed with syndactyly, which severely limited the hand function. We also saw other burn scars unrelated to the balloon accident, but all young patients needing some form of treatment. What we also saw during our trip were also patients with port wine stain who had been scarred by use of old and non-selective lasers, which had not only not erased their port wine stain, but had caused scarring. It was disheartening to see that this was being done by the best vascular surgeon in Armenia, who was not doing this intentionally, but because of lack of education and resources. So our team got to work right away, and we started with a luminous ultrapulse laser, which was loaned to us, and we took over one of the dentist's rooms and divided into pre-op, op, and post-op, and started treating some of these patients. Since 2013, we've made multiple visits there to train the surgeons and also the dermatologists in Armenia how to do this work. And I would love to come back one day to tell you more about our work in Armenia, since there's a lot to share, but due to time constraint, I'm just gonna keep it short. But I do think that ASLMS should have a dedicated session on this humanitarian work that's being done by some of its members. As we saw last year, Dr. Tanus gave an amazing talk about some of the work she had done. And I think it would be a great way to bring really our members and our industry partners and everyone who's interested in supporting such a great humanitarian work to help patients in these countries. So now, to date, we've had already donated 6 lasers to Armenia, which were actually kind donations from Candela and also Quanta lasers. And these lasers are actually being used to achieve outcomes such as this by the physicians that we have trained. And this has such a huge impact on lives of these kids, right? It's really life-altering diseases that they have that we're able to treat and help with the lasers. And thanks to this specific patient who was blind on the left eye, we also learned that doctors in Armenia did not know to screen for glaucoma and start therapy early in kids who have port wine stain around their eye. So we changed that too through an education, and now every kid in Armenia who's born with a port wine stain around their eye gets screened for glaucoma to end this unnecessary cause of blindness, which we're really so proud to be part of. I'm thankful to my mentor, Dr. Rox Sanderson, for empowering me to create this opportunity and to give back to those in need in my home country. I'm very grateful to my colleagues who have traveled with me to Armenia to help establish these clinics. I'm also very grateful to our industry sponsors, such as Candle and Quanta Lasers, for their generous donations. It really takes a village to make such a humanitarian work initiated and self-sustainable. What I've learned is that helping others fuels my tank and recharges my batteries in such a profound way that it allows me to continue innovating. It's amazing, you spend a week in Armenia working from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. helping patients, but you come back more refreshed and recharged to tackle the challenges back home. I'm almost done. My last pillar is commit to the journey and execute. What we're trying to do and lead as professional women is not easy. It takes a lot of hard work, sacrifice, and sometimes even pain. You can't expect to break down barriers without feeling uncomfortable and unsure at times. I have and continue to feel that way at times. It's misleading to look at the finished product and think that everything just successfully happened and easily succeeded. There were times when I was close to giving up. I had 2 young sons, a physician husband who had to travel for work. I had no family around to help, and I was a new dermatologist when I started this work. But I knew that the problem was worth solving, and it was worth sticking with the journey, even when it got arduous. My advice to you is don't give up, and don't get bogged down with getting everything perfect. You're not going to know everything or have everything figured out before you start. Just keep your eye on the prize and focus what is in front of you. Commitment happens one step at a time. In innovation, each interdependent step of research, commercialization rely on each other, and they all must work for you to continue climbing and reaching the ultimate goal of creating a technology to help patients. It's a long road, it takes time, but there's no greater satisfaction than seeing a patient being helped by a technology you created. So coming back, the 3 pillars that have helped me build a life that solves problems. I hope my journey inspires you to embrace your own curiosity, to find your own grit and tenacity, and to channel your intellectual abilities to pursuits that can change the world. Remember, you too can do this. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.